Hey guys, first Regardsman here, and I'll be talking about every single class in Space Marine 2 Patch 14 for hard strats and operations and tier listing them. Now, a couple classes got some changes to them. The biggest one here is, of course, the Tactical. His Aspect Scan no longer buffs up the burn damage. Like, that's the big nerf this patch, but for the most part, I think these classes are all in a pretty good spot. And before I even get into tier listing these guys, I just want to say that just because a class is in like C or B tier, it does not mean a class is bad. It just means it's not as good as some of the other options by comparison, because just because you're a low tier class does not mean you are a bad class. So number one, we have the Heavy here. Now, Heavy is kind of interesting. This guy is really held back by his balanced parry window. Balanced parry windows kind of suck. No melee option kind of sucks. But that being said, he is incredibly tanky. He has a ton of damage, and his team perks are pretty good. Stuff like Encompassing Aegis, stuff like additional supplies that can definitely enable other classes on your team. So, for example, a Tactical can get that 25% primary weapon damage, primary ammo cache buff to his grenade launcher portion, and that makes your Tactical even more effective, especially this patch. So Heavy is pretty good. I just don't think he's quite there on his own for like A or S tier. He does need a perk tree rework. Even Saber Interactive has come out and said that his perk variety is just not very good at all right now. That is currently planned for year 3, but for now, I would say he's a solid B tier class. He is very good. It's just that he's not quite on the level of some of the other ones we'll get into in a second, starting off with Techmarine. Now, Techmarine is the newest class in Space Marine 2. This guy has gone through quite a few buffs, and I'll say, at the moment, he's a pretty strong option in the game, especially for Siege mode. Like, Siege mode, this guy is S tier. Like, Deathwatch Heroic Heavy Bolt Rifle is a very powerful option on Siege for both Techmarine and Tactical, but in the operations and hard strats even, this guy is still pretty good. I think the only place he kind of struggles is in a true solo. He's not a very powerful solo class at times, only because you are so squishy, because the big problem with Techmarine is that you have the lowest HP total in the game tied to the Sniper class, where you have no HP buffs at all, but you also have a ton of armor. So he tries to like kind of stay with his armor up, and when that armor breaks, he's in a pretty bad spot. But even with that, he's still very strong, and in a team comp especially, he pairs very well top tier classes like the Tactical. So I think this guy goes firmly into the A tier. His perk tree variety is probably like the best in the entire game in terms of build variety, and I would also say in terms of fun, he is easily S tier. Like, Techmarine is a super fun class. This guy is very strong. I know I previously put him in the S, but I think with the new Chaos Terminator Sorcerer boss, he's a little bit worse than he used to be. But you know, if you play this guy well, he can definitely be up in the S tier if you want to put him there. But for me, I think he's a very high A and a very strong spot, and in Siege mode especially, he's in the S. But for now, overall, I'd say A. Next class we have here is the Tactical class. Tactical has the best class ability in the entire game, in my opinion, with the Aspect Scan. Aspect Scan is just incredible for any team comp, even without like any perk tree buffs at all. A damage buff for your entire team against heavy hitting enemies like the Neurothrope, Chaos Terminator Sorcerer, or the Hellbrute, just any boss, is just such a good thing to have on your team comp. That's really hard to put this guy anywhere below S. I know like some people might think he's not that strong because he's squishy, but really being a glass cannon is the only downside of Tactical. This guy is a damage output machine. He has the highest damage potential in the entire game. Nothing even comes close to a concentrated fire, precise calibration Aspect Scan in terms of like damage enabling for your whole team, and also stuff like the team perk Secure Stockpile for 60-second recharge on your equipment for your entire team. That grants some of the strongest perk effects in the entire game to classes like Bulwark that are already very strong, but giving a Bulwark a 60-second shock nade, melt a bomb, crack nade, or pyroblast canister, that is such an incredible tool to have that this guy, it's hard to put him anywhere except the S tier. Tactical really is that class. He's been very strong since the game came out, and even though they are going to give him some more options for perk tree variety in year 3, right now he is just kind of nuts, especially after patch 13, where they did change around some of the damage calculations for stuff like headshot damage that made him even better. And even though they nerfed down that burn damage on the Aspect Scan, I mean, Pyroblaster may be worse than it used to be, but his other option, the Heroic Heavy Bolt Rifle, is as strong as ever, and this guy is still in an amazing spot, so S tier for sure. Next class here is Bulwark. Bulwark is as godly as ever. This guy is probably the easiest, best class in the game, and what I mean by that is you are absurdly tanky on the Bulwark. This guy's a 30% HP increase in base. He has the highest damage reduction, damage reduction potential in the entire game as well, and also when you have the invigorating icon perk, you are able to heal your entire team, and if you don't want that, you can also build for shield bash with stuff like concussive force to do some of the highest DPS in melee the game has on offer. So Bulwark is incredible, and also on top of all of that, you have an animation cancel for your shield block where you can cancel out of anything you're doing for perfect dodges, which is kind of insane. And the only place this guy's animation cancel is worse than, say, the assault class is that you can't animation cancel during a parry animation. But that's a very small downside, and his perk tree, despite not having any changes for like a year, he doesn't need them because he's just that guy. And Shield Rush can also stagger like half the enemies in the game, even in rage guys, and some of the bosses. So Bulwark, I would struggle to put him anywhere but S. I think he's a little bit below TAC just because Tactical is better in more content right now. Like, Tactical is very strong in hard siege, he's very strong in the operations and the stratagems mode, and it's really hard to take him into any content and see him suffer at all. But honestly, the same is true for Bulwark, so if you want to swap them around, you definitely could, but they are definitely some of the strongest classes in all of Space Marine 2. Next class here is the Assault. Now, Assault, ever since like patch 12, where they gave him an animation cancel on his jump pack dash, where if you use the jump pack dash, you will animation cancel anything you are doing, has been in a very strong spot. They also changed around his perk tree to give him Furious Strikes to give him even more jump packs. And really, with both of his setups like Zealous Blow and Wings of Flame, this guy is kind of a monster. I don't think he's as strong as he used to be because the Chaos Terminator Sorcerer is kind of a harder boss for him in particular, but even then, he has a ton of stagger potential there, so I would say he goes in a very high A. The Assault class does a tremendous amount of melee damage in Space Marine 2, the highest melee damage in the entire game, and really, he is a horde clear monster, a single target monster, and if you take Wings of Flame with commitment into enemies like the Carnifex, I mean, you can just trivialize those bosses all on your own. This guy has come a very long way since the launch of the game, and at the moment, it's hard to put him anywhere lower than A tier, and honestly, if you want to put him in S tier, I can completely understand that. I think both of these guys are very strong, and definitely, you know, nipping at the heels of like Tactical and Bulwark. The next class here that actually needs a buff is the Vanguard. Now, Vanguard is a controversial class in Space Marine 2. A lot of new players will play this guy, or like a lot of players will play him and have an easy time and assume he's like the strongest class in the game. They'll see all the healing perks he has on offer and be like, wow, that's super strong. I'm just clearing content all the time. And that's definitely true. His healing potential is incredible. Like, this guy really does struggle to die. He has a great margin for error, but the big issue with him compared to classes like Bulwark is like Bulwark struggles to die as well. Bulwark struggles to die more than the Vanguard does, and he can also heal his entire team, except this guy also has a way higher damage potential than the Vanguard class does. Vanguard's melee perks are like half broken, and things like Melee Champion have sucked for ages, and even with like buffs to this class over time, he is still just weaker than like every other option because he doesn't really bring a ton to your team except for like support, because things like Inner Fire and Unmatched Zeal, these are good, but the better your team is, the less advantage they are taking of these, and even in things like Siege mode, he's not that strong outside of enabling stuff like Bulwark. So for the most part, I would say this guy firmly goes into like the C tier. I mean, fuck, he might even be in the D tier because he really is significantly lower in power level overall than the other classes are, but he is by no means a bad class. Like, let's be very clear, Zone of Impact Tactical Prowess is very strong, even with all the bugs that surround the grapnel on this class, and they are looking to improve him, especially in year 3. The Vanguard will absolutely be getting buffs in the future, and even though we haven't seen a ton of those yet, they've changed him a bit, but they haven't seen a ton. He's in like a pretty decent spot for the operations and hard strats. You can definitely use him if you want to. He's by no means a bad class. He can clear all content. Let's make that very clear. It's just that when we compare him to things like Heavy, Assault, Techmarine, Bulwark, and Tac, he is just not close to these guys in terms of damage at all, and his survivability does not really bridge that gap. Next perk here, or not perk, class here is the Sniper. Now, I was sleeping on Sniper for like 2 patches for whatever reason. This guy is the best class in the entire game for hard strats and ops. His his 90-second base cooldown, the camo cloak, that they buffed up in a hotfix for patch 12, kind of broke this guy, where as long as you have Purification, Emperor's Grace, and Lingering Concealment, all you have to do is just shoot your Bolt Carbine or Heroic Instigator, and you will just break your camo cloak, be invulnerable for 2 seconds, and by the time that runs out, you will have your camo cloak again with Purification to recover all of your HP. And because of that, this guy pretty much never dies if you manage his cloak properly. And like, that's really the crux of this class in general, is that if you manage your cloak properly on the sniper class, you will just never die. This class really struggles to die in all content. The only reason this guy is not the strongest class in a mode like siege mode is because siege mode is more of a DPS race, and he's not like the best for pushing into, you know, DPS. Tactical and Bulwark are much better for that, and Techmarine especially. It's just that sniper doesn't die. So in a mode like hard strats and operations, he just automatically ascends to the top, because all you have to do is just put out your DPS and just wait, and eventually everything on the map will die. This is like the single easiest class in the entire game to go through a Supremacy of the Strong, twice the foe, you know, modifier, stratagem modifier with stuff like Tsunami and Extreme Challenge. He really just does not have an issue with any content in Space Marine 2, and even in the siege mode he's pretty good. It's just that he doesn't have the DPS as some of the other options. But that being said, I think overall for the hard strats and ops, he is just the de facto best class. And even though things like tactical are very powerful as well, if you have a sniper on your class, you will just win every match if they know what they're doing, pretty much. And that's why I'd put him up here. But if you want to like put him below Tac or Bulwark, just because these guys are better in siege mode than he is, I can definitely understand that. But I would still say he's in the tip top of the hard strats and ops. But that is pretty much every class in Space Marine 2. You know, I think patch 14 is a pretty good patch. There wasn't a ton here in terms of content, besides the new heroic options I'll get into in a tier list later, and also the new Chaos Terminator Sorcerer boss. But this is a pretty great small patch, and keep in mind, guys, we are getting an anniversary patch in like a month. That is coming out in September, so there is a very short wait time between this one and the next major patch. Will be much larger than this one with the Chaos Siege mode and all of that. So if you're feeling like you're a little underwhelmed by this option, this patch just a holdover for that one, and we're not even getting to PTS for that one. So get ready for the year 3 roadmap and all of that. And I also want to be clear, this is just my opinion on the best classes in the game, and if you like a certain class, you can definitely play that. You don't just have to play the strongest thing in the operations every single time. This game is all about build variety, so choose whatever you feel best with. And if you have different opinions what the best class is, feel free to let me know in the comments below and give me a reason why, because, you know, I think, you know, having a community consensus on the best class is usually a pretty controversial thing, so I'm sure you guys have your own opinions. But that's all I have to say in this one, guys. If you like content like this, subscribe for more. If you want to watch me live to ask me questions about the game, or just come hang out, you can find me here on YouTube or on Twitch with a link in the video description, alongside a link to my community Discord. And I also want to say a special thank you to my channel members. Your guys' support has helped me out tremendously in the past 2 years, and as we move into year 3, I really can't appreciate the support enough. And as always, thank you for watching. Take it easy. Bye.